What does sleep have to do with mental wellness? Everything. Hi, my name is Dr. Hanna Hensen and I'm a sleep researcher. And today I want to share with you why sleep is such an important factor in mental health at work. Insufficient sleep negatively impacts your ability to work. It will have an impact on your creativity, your productivity, judgment, decision-making processes. If you are working with large figures, writing an article, handling transactions, controlling machinery, anything really, poor quality sleep will adversely affect your success at work. Join me as we dive into the science of sleep to gain better understanding of how poor sleep affects your mental well-being at work. So let's shine our light on healthy sleep. I want to ask you the question, who do you want to be and who would you like as your employee? Today I want to introduce to you James and George. James is the kind of guy that always responds on your email any time of day. It might be midnight, anytime really. And usually when you come into the office, James is already there, behind his desk with a big cup of coffee next to him. Then there's George. George doesn't usually get back to you after work hours, and he usually comes in around 10 a.m., but he might stay a little bit longer. James can be a bit cranky. He doesn't really like when things don't go his way, and he can sometimes snap a little bit. George is usually really friendly and likes to see your point of view. So you might think James is this really, really hard worker, but actually I think James is sleep deprived. So he puts in a lot of effort during the day trying to get his work done. So as you can see on the slide, he's working really hard, maybe just as hard as George is, but he's not really getting anywhere. Whereas George is actually taking the time during the night to take a good quality sleep, which makes him more efficient and more productive during the day. So you might think this is a little bit extreme, but sleep really is that important. So if we look around, humans aren't the only ones sleeping. Everything alive sleeps. Here in Australia, you've got the koala, the wombat, but all animals, also the birds and even fruit flies, have sleep-like behavior. But we all do it in our own different way. So for example, the dolphin adjusted in this really interesting way to be able to live in the water, take their breaths above the water, but also sleep. So what the dolphin does, it sleeps with half of its brain. So half of the brain is awake and the other half is asleep. So it's still able to swim and take its breaths above the water. So we humans actually sleep for about 1/3 of our lives. So it must be very important. So what do we do when we sleep? Sleep is actually important for all different kinds of body functions. But the main organ that really needs its sleep is the brain. So what happens during the night when we sleep? The brain actually cleans itself and restores energy supplies. So research has even shown that the brain kind of shrinks during the night, which enables fluid to rush through the brain, picking up all these waste products that we produce during the day. Another thing that happens during the night is that neural connections are strengthened and also being created. And what we also do is we consolidate our memories. So studies have shown if you give a bunch of people a task and they learn that during the day, and then half of them you give a good night's sleep and the other half you disrupt their night, the people that have had a good night are way better at performing that task and memorizing the things they've learned the day before. So there are all these different things happening during our night's sleep. And research is discovering more and more. So it's not just one thing. A lot of things happen when we close our eyes at night. If this still is a little bit unclear, I want to give you another example. Imagine a kitchen. You've got the beautiful kitchen to cook with all the accessories that you need. And you want to create all these different dishes. You can. So you're making all these different dishes, but you just don't take the time to clean up after yourself. So it's kind of like you're not taking the time to take a good night's sleep. So what will happen after the first time of preparing your dishes might not really be a problem. But then if you continue making and cooking things, but you don't clean up after yourself, your kitchen at some stage will look something like this. What's happening in this kitchen is actually what's happening in your brain if you don't get enough sleep. So then the question that everyone always asks me is, how much sleep should I get? So this changes over your lifespan. So when you're very young, when you're a child, you need more sleep. But when we're an adult or an older adult, we need about 7 to 9 hours. And research has actually shown that if you sleep less than 6 hours or more than 10 hours, you have an increased mortality risk. Unfortunately, if we look at Australia, we're not getting that 7 to 9 hours. So a report released last year by the Sleep Health Foundation showed that about 40% of Australians have inadequate sleep. This causes 1 death every day due to an accident due to the lack of sleep. And this leads up to a total cost of inadequate sleep in Australia of 66.3 billion over the year 16-17. And those costs are in well-being costs, but also in productivity costs. So also economically, it's of great importance to pay attention and to prioritize your sleep. If 40% of Australians are getting inadequate sleep, what is keeping us from sleeping? It can be several things. First of all, it could be sleep disorders keeping us from sleep. So for example, sleep apnea, a sleep disorder where you stop breathing for multiple times during the night. Or other health problems, like you might have low back pain that keeps you awake during the night. But then there's this one very important thing, which is behavior. So I want to talk to you a little bit more about that. One of the things that cuts into our sleep is commuting to work. So I live in Sydney, and I'm one of the lucky ones that actually just cycles up to work in about 10 minutes. But I know a lot of colleagues of mine, it takes them about 1.5, sometimes even 2 hours to get to work. So you have to leave very early in the morning to be on work on time. But you also arrive home quite late in the evening, and you still want to make something of your evening. So this often cuts into people their sleep. Then the next thing is our screens, our mobile phones, our tablets, our TVs, our laptops. They all send out this bright blue light. And what this bright blue light does, it suppresses one of the key hormones that makes us sleepy at night, melatonin. So if you're using your phone or your tablet or your iPhone in the evening, this is going to disrupt your sleep. Another thing that could keep us from sleeping is coffee. We know coffee is a stimulant to the brain and will keep you awake. So coffee in the evening especially will interrupt your sleep at night. And then alcohol is something some of you might think that will help you sleep, because it is a sedative substance. However, alcohol actually reduces the quality of your sleep. And another thing why some of us might not be getting our sleep is because we're actually stressed about things during the day. We're stressed about things at work, and we're maybe anxious about something that's going to happen the next day, and this keeps us awake at night. However, then when we don't get our good night's sleep, things are even more stressful the next day. So all these kind of behavioral aspects can cut into our sleep and be an explanation for why we're not getting good quality sleep. And one of the things that I really want to stress today is also the fact that people often, especially as well in the business world, people overvalue people that undervalue sleep. So sometimes it's like this superhero idea that people don't need sleep. It's kind of cool to be able to say like, oh no, I just slept for 3 hours, but still I'm here. Whereas we know as researchers that everyone needs their 7 to 8 hours of sleep. And there might be a few exceptions that need a little bit less, but in general, it's very important if you want to be efficient and productive to have a good night's sleep. So how does poor sleep affect us in the workplace? So if we think about key performance indicators, so things that make us be the best person or the most successful person in our jobs, the things that come to mind are, for example, creativity, intelligence, motivation, effort, efficiency, but also emotional stability, sociability, honesty. All these things are important to be a good worker or to enjoy your job and be mentally healthy in your work. But all these things that I've just mentioned, they're all dismantled by sleep deprivation. And this can become kind of like a negative spiral. So think about it. If you don't sleep enough, the tasks you have to do during the day are probably gonna take longer because you're not as efficient as you could be. And you're also a bit more cranky, so you're not as sociable, you're not really feeling up for a chat. So your work is actually gonna take longer. So you're working later hours, which then also cuts into your sleep again. So we do see this sometimes happening in society where this kind of becomes a negative spiral, where sleep deprivation is one of the key things that we could change to improve a whole lot of other things. So if you do want to improve your sleep, let's talk about the ways how you can improve your sleep. So I just want to give you some strategies, some do's and don'ts to improve your sleep quality. So the first one is a regular rhythm. So try to go to bed at about the same time each night and try to get up in the morning at about the same time each day. Another very important and kind of obvious thing is that you want your environment to sleep in be good. So make sure you've got a comfortable mattress, a comfortable pillow. The temperature of your room is not too high. An ideal temperature for most people is around 18 degrees. And make sure that it's quiet, it's dark. All those things can help you to have a good night's sleep. Another thing that might help is to do some daytime exercise. But don't leave it till late in the evening, because if you exercise just before you actually go to bed, it will make it harder to fall asleep. Then there are also some don'ts. Naps can sometimes be a good thing, but never for too long. So if you do take a nap during the day, maybe just keep it to about 20 to 30 minutes. You don't want to sleep any longer because that will probably affect your sleep at night. So another don't is using screens at night. As I mentioned before, the blue light that is sent out by the screens suppresses the release of melatonin. And melatonin is the hormone we need to get sleepy and to stabilize our sleep. So if you do feel the need to use your tablet or phone in the hours before you go to bed, make sure you switch on the night mode, because that filters out the blue light and should make it a little bit easier to get to sleep. So my last advice on don'ts is coffee and alcohol. If you are someone that does find it hard to sleep or has trouble sleeping, make sure that you don't drink a coffee late in the evening or after your evening meal. And try also to cut out alcohol in the evening, because we know that alcohol may seem like something that helps you sleep and it may get you to sleep easier. During the night, it affects your sleep quality. So let's now have a look what workplaces can do to prioritize sleep. So we've seen that some companies offer sleep hygiene courses to their employees, which means that you can learn a little bit more on how to prioritize your sleep in your daily life and how you can improve your routines around going to sleep. Something else that workplaces can introduce are flexible working hours. So you can accommodate both the early birds and the night owls. Some people just function best a little bit later in the morning, and others function best really early in the morning. So if you can accommodate that, that will help everyone to be as successful as they can. Another thing workplaces can do is give you the opportunity to take a nap in the afternoon. So if you look at this photo, this is a nap pod used by Google that gives people the opportunity to take a nap when they need to. But what is important to realize is that still it's most important to make sure you get a good night's sleep, and most people don't really need a nap during the day, but sometimes a 20 to 30 minute nap can actually improve your productivity. Another thing to consider for some workplaces is shift work. There's a lot of research being done on shift work, like how to schedule it, what are the meals to take, when do you have breaks. So there's a lot of attention for this, and this research, if you are a shift worker or if you're a company that has shift workers, this should be research you are across. So to finish off, I'd like to take you back to the beginning. So here we see George and James. None of them is sleep deprived anymore, and they're both moving forward. What we've learned and what research tells us is that sleep is not a waste of time. So make sure you prioritize it and mind your sleep.